Today we are tackling Cormac McCarthy's The Road. And whoa boy, we've got a lot to cover. So get ready, because it's not just about surviving the apocalypse. It's about the choices we make when things fall apart, the stories we tell ourselves, and what really matters when everything else is gone.
Yeah, and it's wild how McCarthy doesn't waste any time. Like, he just throws us head first into this desolate world. No explanations, no backstory, nothing. Just these super vivid descriptions of a world choked by ash, cities reduced to, like skeletons. You really feel the despair, the struggle against starvation, and that bone-chilling cold right from the get-go.
Yeah, for sure. It's bleak, man. But there's something about it. Banville actually uses this phrase dystopian opulence to describe McCarthy's writing, which I thought was pretty spot on. It's like even in this ravaged landscape, there's a kind of a terrible beauty.
And that makes me think about the father and son at the center of it all. I mean, we never learn their names, which kind of makes them feel like they could be anyone, even us. Just imagine yourself trudging through this wasteland, facing these unimaginable horrors, just to make it to the next day. What would keep you going?
Oh man, you know that scene where the father has to wash like a dead man's brains out of the boy's hair? That one really stuck with me. I mean, it just shows how far he'll go to protect his son. But there's this tenderness there too, and how he cares for him.
That's interesting that you notice that tenderness. Makes you wonder, right, if the father's devotion is entirely selfless, or if it's also a way for him to, cling to his own humanity, to find a reason to keep going in a world where meaning has been kind of stripped away. Remember the mother?
Oh, man. Yeah. Talk about a heartbreaker. She loves her family, but she can't take it. She chooses death over this existence.
Right. And that suicide, it's not just some random plot point, It forces us to think about these really uncomfortable questions. Did she have the right to choose that? And how does her absence impact the father and the son? I mean, he's determined to survive, but it's for the boy. Like, he believes he's the only thing standing between his son and oblivion. But is that enough?
It makes you think, would you be able to carry on if you lost everything and everyone you loved? Would you choose to survive even if it meant facing, those unimaginable horrors? Or would you, I don't know, would you follow the mother's path?
And this brings us to this idea of carrying the fire that runs through the whole book. It's never spelled out for us what it means, but it seems to be this driving force behind the father's choices.
Yeah, the fire. Is it hope? Humanity? It seems like it's different for the father and the son, doesn't it? I mean, the boy, he still has that innocence, this belief in goodness that shines through even in this, super dark world. Remember that scene where they find the abandoned house and that can of Coca-Cola, the boy's over the moon, even though it's just a rusty old can of soda.
Right. That scene always gets to me. It highlights the contrast between the father's cynicism and the boy's, natural hopefulness. The father sees the Coca-Cola as a relic, a reminder of everything that's gone. But the boy, he just sees a treat, a simple pleasure in a world devoid of joy. And it's that pure, unadulterated joy that seems to be, his fire.
Whoa, I never thought of it that way. The father's trying so hard to protect the boy's innocence, but maybe the boy is the one keeping him alive, reminding him that there's still beauty to be found in all the ashes.
And that protection, that desperate need to shield his son from the darkness, it leads the father to make some pretty brutal decisions. Think about their encounter with the truck full of armed men.
Oh man, intense scene, the way the father threatens to shoot the guy, describing exactly where that bullet would go in and come out. It's chilling, but you get it, You understand his desperation. He's willing to cross any line to protect his son.
Exactly. That scene really shows us the moral dilemmas of this world, right?
Yeah.
This post-apocalyptic world. I mean, who are the good guys when everyone is just fighting to survive? And can you even hold on to your morality when you're faced with choices like that?
So we've got this father, hardened by the world, carrying the weight of survival on his shoulders. And this son, a beacon of hope and innocence, just trying to understand it all. But they're not alone in this wasteland, are they? McCarthy throws in these encounters with other survivors that, man, they really ramp up the tension.
You're right. Like that horrifying discovery of the people trapped in the cellar, victims of cannibalism. That one really shook me. It shows you how far humanity can fall when driven by pure desperation.
Yeah, that one stuck with me too. And then you've got the old man Elo, who's this embodiment of this bleak, nihilistic view of the world. He's giving up on hope completely, right? Yeah. Believing that nothing matters.
Eli's philosophy, it directly challenges this whole idea of carrying the fire. He represents that voice of despair, the temptation to just give in to the darkness. It makes you ask, If the world is truly ending, does anything we do even matter?
And that's what makes The Road so thought-provoking. It's not just a story about surviving the apocalypse. It's about what it means to be human in a world stripped bare.
Yeah, McCarthy forces us to confront our own values, our capacity for both darkness and light. He makes us ask ourselves, what would we carry on the road? And how far would we go to protect that fire, whatever it may be?
Yeah, and it's like all these other survivors they meet, it's like they're constantly having to figure out their own morals. Like, how do you even decide who to trust in a world like that? Like, who's good and who's bad when everything's gone to hell?
Right. It's like every single interaction could be life or death. Remember that family they run into towards the end? It seems like, oh, finally, a little bit of light. But you just get this feeling that something isn't right. Like, is it too good to be true?
Which makes the ending so powerful, right? The boy's safe. He finds this new family, a community that's, well, they seem to be living out the values that he and his father have been clinging to. But the father, you can tell he's just broken, worn down from all the horrors. He dies believing his son will be okay, that the fire will keep burning. But we don't know what happens to the boy now.
It's totally ambiguous, right? I mean, will that innocence, that belief in the good guys, will he hold on to that? Or will he end up like his father? Hardened by the world. It's really why this book stays with you, McCarthy doesn't give you those easy answers. You have to think about it.
It makes you think about humanity and hope and just what we do when we're pushed to the limit. And speaking of hope, there are these moments, these flashes of beauty in the book that really got to me. Like when they find the waterfall, this oasis of peace in the middle of all that destruction.
It really shows you how resilient nature is, right? Like even after everything, life finds a way. This reminder that beauty's still out there, even in the most unexpected places.
And not just the waterfall, there's the apple orchard, a sign of abundance in this, barren world. Even something as simple as sharing a can of Coca-Cola becomes this super powerful moment.
Like these little glimmers of light in the darkness. They remind us that even in the worst situations, there's still joy, connection, these moments of grace that make life worth living.
And isn't that what carrying the fire really means? Protecting those little bits of humanity, the things that make us more than just survivors, even when the world's falling apart?
I think you're right. It's about holding on to those values, that sense of purpose. What gives us this strength to keep moving forward? Choosing hope instead of giving in to despair, even when it feels like we can't afford it.
It makes you think about our own world, doesn't it? I mean, sure, we're not in a post-apocalyptic wasteland or anything, but things are pretty messed up right now. Climate change, politics, all the unrest. It's overwhelming sometimes.
For sure, and that's why The Road feels so relevant. Even though it's, this fictional dystopia, it makes us ask ourselves, what are we willing to fight for? What are the values that we're carrying with us on our own journeys?
And how do we keep that fire burning even when it feels like the wind's trying to blow it out?
The million-dollar question, right? I think McCarthy's saying it's about those small acts of kindness, those moments of connection, the glimpses of beauty that remind us that even when things are dark, there's still light out there.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Road, what's resonated with you most? What have you taken away from this journey into McCarthy's bleak but strangely hopeful world? One thing that really got to me was his use of language, It's so stark, so bare, but it's almost like poetry. Every word feels so heavy, like it's carrying the weight of this world, their emotions.
Yeah, definitely. His writing is so powerful. Even when he's describing something as simple as like a can of beans or a pair of shoes, you're forced to pay attention to every detail, to see the value in those simple things we usually take for granted. This constant reminder that the past is gone, the future's uncertain, they're living in the shadow of this catastrophe, haunted by what they've lost.
It makes you think about the things we carry with us. Not just stuff, but emotionally too, The father and son, they have their few possessions, but they also have their memories, their love for each other, and that idea of carrying the fire.
And those things, the intangible ones, those are what really keep them going. The memories, the stories, that belief that there's something worth fighting for. Those are the embers that keep the fire alive, even when everything's cold and dark.
Remember that scene where the father finds the picture of his wife in that abandoned house? Just a faded photograph, but it brings back all these emotions.
Oh yeah, such a powerful scene. It shows how strong memory can be, how even a tiny object can evoke those feelings of love and loss, longing. And it reminds us how important it is to hold on to those memories, even the painful ones, because they're part of us.
Like those memories, they're part of the fire too, right? A reminder of the beauty that existed. A flicker of hope in a world that seems to want to crush all hope.
And that brings us back to the ending. The father dies, but the boy lives on. He finds a new family, a community that seems to offer some hope for the future.
But is it really a happy ending? I mean, we don't know what'll happen to him. Will he be able to stay innocent in this world? Can he carry the fire without his father?
That's the question McCarthy leaves us with. No easy answers. But the fact that the boy survives, that he connects with others, I think it suggests that there's still hope for humanity, even after unimaginable darkness.
Like McCarthy's saying that the fire can be passed on. Even when one flame goes out, another one can be lit.
And maybe that's the whole point of the road. It's not about finding a happy ending. It's about hope, love, the strength of the human spirit, finding the strength to keep going, even when the road ahead is uncertain and scary.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive into the road, I'm feeling a mix of despair and hope, I guess. Despair at how fragile the world is, the darkness inside all of us, but hope because McCarthy shows us that even in the bleakest places, the fire can still burn.
And that fire, that's what we carry with us, the love, the stories, the values, that spark of humanity that connects us, even in a world that can feel so cold and divided.
So as you head back out into your world, remember to keep that fire burning bright. Not just for you, but for everyone around you, because in the end, it's the fire that will light our way.